439 hash. Star 439 hash. Make sure you're playing as many times as possible. It'll cost you 5 cedis to play. Again, it is option 2 for TV3. And you too could be walking away with 1,000 Ghana cedis going straight onto your mobile device. Again, star 439 hash. You know the drill. If you don't play, you don't win. We're giving out money today. Don't be left behind. Star 439 hash. Find out what's got so many people excited in the mornings. Let me also say a very big thank you to Addis Beauty for my lovely hairstyle. It's Addis_Beauty on all of the socials. Find them opposite the Marbrook Park inside Dancerman. Addis_Beauty. All right, let's get into the big issue and let me lay the foundation for our very first conversation. I'm talking about the twists and turns as far as the Ken Ofori-Atta saga is concerned. Now, that saga reached a pivotal moment with the former finance minister officially placed on Interpol's red notice list on June 6th, 2025, after failing to appear before Ghana's office of the special prosecutor. Now, this escalation comes amid serious allegations of corruption involving multi-million-dollar contracts and the controversial National Cathedral project, amongst others. Now, adding a new dimension, Ken Ofori-Atta's wife recently confirmed his successful prostate surgery abroad. I'm sure many of you have cited that letter that has been signed by her, Professor Angela Ofori-Atta. Now, the family has challenged the red notice, citing health concerns and alleged rights violations. Now, as Ghana intensifies efforts to secure his return, the case exposes the complex legal, medical and political challenges that lie at the heart of the country's fight for accountability. And shortly, we'll put on the screens that letter that has been signed by the wife of Ken Ofori-Atta, and that's Professor Angela Ofori-Atta. Now, this is what she has to say, and by extension, the family of Ken Ofori-Atta has to say. She says, "My husband, Ken Ofori-Atta, the former finance minister, has undergone the scheduled robotic-assisted radical prostatectomy. This was to deal with prostate cancer, and it was done at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota on Friday, June 13th. The procedure took 4+ hours. Now, the doctors are pleased with how the procedure went and will now place him on a post-operative regime. Kenneth has always been resilient, but it has been very difficult, with the OSP choosing the period just before his surgery to declare a red alert on him." It goes on to say Kenneth is bearing up well and focused on doing whatever he can to be restored to good health. Our family is truly grateful for the support and prayers of many people and pastors. And that's signed Professor Mrs. Angela Ofori-Atta. Let me introduce to you my panel for the morning, and then we'll carry on dissecting this issue. All right. And we'll also, after that, take a look at some responses specifically coming from the office of the special prosecutor. But let me say a very good morning and a warm welcome to Julius Kwame Anthony. He's part of the presidency's communication team. Julius, hello, good morning to you.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Thank you for making time to join us. Also, Dr. Josiah Koba, former principal lecturer at GIMPA, also private legal practitioner. He joins us in the studios. Doc, hello, good morning.
Thank you. Good morning, Helen.
How are you doing this morning?
Very well, very well.
Thank you for making time for us. Nana Yao Sapon, political aide to Alan Tremanting. He doesn't have his yellow Bible, but he does have the Constitution with him.
So somebody borrowed my yellow Bible some few seconds when I was just about getting in. Another person wanted, But of course, once an apostle, you carry the word in you. But yes, so if you read the books, it makes it very clear that your word shall not depart away from my mouth. And so his word is in my mouth.
I see some biblical starts to the morning. Yes, we had some animal analogies this morning. We're starting off quite spiritual. Let's see how and where the morning takes us. But let's now take a look at a post on Facebook by Sami Darko. He's the Director of Strategy and Research at the Office of the Special Prosecutor, responding to that letter which we just read out for you. Now, the Facebook post has this to say. Again, this is from Sami Darko of the OSP. He says, "You may choose to distort facts or shift the goalposts, but the truth remains. As of today, Mr. Ofori-Atta has not produced any certified medical report or flight risk assessment from his personal attending physician or hospital indicating that he is incapacitated or unable to travel." And I think there's more he adds to that as well. Let's get that on the screen. He says he was given the opportunity to appear before law enforcement between February and June 2nd, 2025, but failed or refused to do so. Notably, he did not undergo any surgery on the 21st or 22nd of March, 2025, despite a statement from his medical coordinator widely circulated online suggesting otherwise. All right, so that is what Sami Darko has had to say as far as this release from the family of Ken Ofori-Atta is concerned. All right, he says, furthermore, has Mr. Ofori-Atta not traveled in and out of the UK and USA between March and 31st May 2025? If he is able to fly internationally, what prevented him from appearing before law enforcement? Let's also go ahead and take a listen to what Sami Darko had to tell my colleague, Alfred Okanse.
Lawyer Sami Darko is joining us on the telephone, but it was trying to get him on Zoom, but we couldn't connect. But he's joining us on the telephone right now, thankfully, to respond to some of the issues that you have raised. He's the Director of Strategy, Research and Communications Division of the Office of the Special Prosecutor, OSP. Lawyer Sami Darko, thank you for joining us. Now, first off, why did you, the Mayo Clinic letter we have has the United States address, but in the wanted notice that you published declaring Ken Ofori-Atta wanted, you listed 6 countries on there, talking about the US, UK, South Africa, Guyana, Hong Kong, Cayman Islands. Why?
Okay, thank you. First of all, let me say that it's not every information that as law enforcement we may put out for purposes of protecting our investigation. So if you see a law enforcement agency list jurisdiction, take it to mean that they have intel that may suggest a few other things than you, who is not inside the investigation, will be aware. I would like to address a little confusion in the minds of, I think, lawyers in particular. You know, some lawyers are treating Mr. Ofori-Atta as if he's an accused person, which means that Mr. Ofori-Atta has been charged, or let me begin with that. He has been arrested and charged. So they will talk about why is the OSP not taking advantage of mutual legal assistance program and go and do video conferencing, blah, blah. The OSP is aware of all these things, but these things are used when a person has been arrested, charged, and placed before a court. As we speak, Mr. Ofori-Atta has not been arrested by any law enforcement agency. So the suggestion that we could take Mr. Ofori-Atta via Zoom may not apply, because we cannot arrest a person through Zoom. We cannot take a caution statement from a suspect through Zoom, because the only time you can take a caution statement is when the person has been placed under arrest properly, so-called.
Right.
And let me also address the little issue about trial in absentia. If you study our Constitution very well, Article 19.3 details how trial in absentia should happen. And the conditions are about 2. It says that when a person, an accused, when you say an accused, it means that you have been arrested, charged, has a disruptive behavior, like that placing before the court will disrupt proceedings. Or if the person, having been charged, that is, the accused, being placed before court, elects not to come to court at all, So there's a popular case called Kwachi, that is the Republic, which is like the case on it even ended at Court of Appeal. The whole idea is that the person must be tried in his presence.
All right, and you are listening there to the voice of Sami Darko. He's the Director of Strategy and Research at the Office of the Special Prosecutor, reacting there to some of the twists and turns as far as Ken Ofori-Atta is concerned. And let me start off with Dr. Koba on this one. And Doc, again, thank you so much for your time this morning. We've seen how this case has traveled thus far. Now, around January 2nd, we were told that Ken Ofori-Atta had left the shores of Ghana, and I would say that at that point, the saga began. February 12th, 2025, the OSP officially declares Ken Ofori-Atta a fugitive from justice, citing multiple corruption-related investigations, including contracts related to revenue assurance, National Cathedral project, as well as the ambulance procurement deal we were told about. Then February 18 comes. Ken Ofori-Atta's lawyers request his removal from the OSP's wanted list, citing medical treatment abroad and assuring his return. The OSP, we then saw, temporarily removed his name from the list pending his return. Fast forward June 2nd, Ken Ofori-Atta fails to appear before the OSP as agreed, leading to his re-declaration as a wanted person and fugitive from justice. The OSP threatens to issue an Interpol red notice. That's on June 2nd. And we know that as of June 6th, that officially had been done. June 10th, the saga continues to raise questions. And now fast forward, today is June 17th. Yesterday, we cited that letter which we read out coming from the wife of Ken Ofori-Atta. He says he has now successfully, or she says, he has now successfully undergone the treatment and estimates that in about 3 months, if everything goes well, he will return to the shores of Ghana and answer all of these burning questions that the people of Ghana, specifically the OSP, Nawotodi, Yoko, NIB, have for him. She also says there's no place like home. He will return. What do you make of the OSP's legal approach as it has traveled up until now?
Well, good morning again. I personally am not happy at all about the way this is playing out. You know, as a people, we are all scared of the big C, cancer. It makes people uncomfortable. The fact is that some of us have seen it close quarters, and especially so with prostate cancer. And some of us understand what it entails. And there is expertise in Ghana in terms of whatever the former finance minister has been through. No one wants to visit this kind of illness on anyone. And we all wish him well. However, I think that the Special Prosecutor's Office probably has information that we don't have. To begin with, there is expertise in Ghana, as I said earlier, on prostate cancer. We know that people are aware of what that procedure entails, what the former minister went through. And I'm not too sure whether it is enough for a spouse just to tell us that he needs 3 months. I think what the special prosecutor is asking for is a medical report,
right?
A credible medical report from the doctors who are handling his illness. And I think that is not too much to ask. Again, I'm happy that Mr. Sami Darko explained why they want him personally here in the jurisdiction. There's a difference between an accused and a suspect. And sometimes we discuss what is going on as if he's been charged. He has not been charged.
What is that distinction then? Because we've had that play out as far as these discussions are concerned. Accused person versus being a suspect, also versus being a person of interest, for example. What is that key distinction here that we're looking at?
They're still investigating. Investigations, usually you want to have face-to-face conversation with the person, and you have to caution him. There are rules that need to be followed in investigations, when you are a suspect.
Right.
It is different when you are charged. When you are charged, then we can begin to talk about being tried in absentia and all those international things that we're talking about can kick in. At this stage, they just want him to come for discussions. And I'm sure they have information why they want him to come. Information that we are not privy to, Suffice it to say, from where I sit, I think it does not lie in the mouth of the spouse. As much as, I'm sure we all know how our spouses care about us.
That's right.
But it does not lie in her mouth to tell us that her husband needs 3 months. I think that a doctor's report, a proper doctor's report, not a biopsy report or any certain, what is needed. I'm sure Mr. Ofori-Atta's lawyers are very much aware of what the special prosecutor is asking for. They should just comply so that we can put this behind us. There's one thing I need to say. Some of us are worried about the time that this is taking. Lawyers will tell you, some of us will tell you that trials take too long in our country to begin with. You can have, especially when you have a politically exposed person, you can have a trial that goes for years, as if we're waiting for the particular regime to die off.
So is that some sort of strategy there by protracting and prolonging
I am not suggesting that.
Right.
I'm just saying that it is important that Mr. Ofori-Atta's lawyers cooperate so that we can get this thing over with. It is always in the interest of the accused or the suspect, just as much as it's in the interest of the state, to have prosecutions done quickly and so that we can get to the end of it and move on. And so part of our concern, some of us, is that this is taking too long. Why 3 months after surgery, successful surgery, prostate surgery? Why 3 months? Maybe there are some nuances that we are not aware of. Then have the doctor tell us. But I think that one of the things that we want as citizens, some of us, and we're asking of the special prosecutor, is that whatever they're doing, we want this to happen as quickly as possible, so that this will not drag out as we've seen in other cases.
When you say as quickly as possible, what sort of timelines then are we talking about? I'm sure it's maybe difficult to put a specific time to it, but 3 months, one might argue that that's not a long time. That's a relatively short period of time for the OSP to exercise patience.
Well, some people say that the wheels of justice,
grind slowly.
Grind slowly. Whether it's true or not, I am doing a simple land case in our court. We started in 2021. And sometimes I look at my client and I feel sorry for her. So that's how slow it can be. We can do better, and I'm sure that, especially in cases like this, where we have very serious public interests, we want to do better. That is not to say that we should not cross the T's and dot the I's, that we should be meticulous and make sure that justice prevails, that the due process is gone through. But it can be too slow, and we want to encourage the special prosecutor to do whatever they have to do. If it means reaching out sometimes and meeting them halfway, whatever, so that as much as we don't want the accused or the suspect to dictate how investigations would take place. We also want to ask the special prosecutor to do whatever is possible to make sure that we do this as quickly as possible.
Right. Now, we do know that it's the red notice, that Interpol notice, that's not enough to extradite Ken Ofori-Atta. Some other processes, we're told, have to be initiated before we can secure Ken Ofori-Atta's arrival back into the country. So an Interpol red notice alone is not sufficient for extradition, but it does act as an international alert to law enforcement agencies to locate and provisionally arrest a wanted person. But it is not an arrest warrant or an automatic trigger for extradition. We're told that the OSP and the AG's office, they're working closely to extradite Ken Ofori-Atta. Is that the best next steps in this particular chain of events? Is that what you think will give us the results that we need? And what sort of pitfalls do you anticipate in the way of the OSP as well as the AG's office as it stands now? And as explained by Sammy Darko of the OSP, a trial in absentia cannot take place because Ken Ofori-Atta hasn't been charged, in fact, not arrested, and so on and so forth. Can you put some clarity to that procedure for us?
Extradition is not a straightforward matter. You remember this Wikipedia guy who was assigned, who was in People Fight It. The first thing you do if you are in the US and they're trying to get you to Ghana is to get a lawyer there. Yes. And then you go to court and you challenge it. It may take years. So it's not straightforward. That is why some of us are saying that if there is a way for the special prosecutor's office to work something out so that we can get the result that we want, which is justice, then we should do that. We should explore all manner of ways to see if we can get what we need. And I'm sure that they are professionals and they are doing just that. But it is not a straightforward matter that you put somebody, there's a red alert and a person is declared wanted, and then the jurisdiction where they are will extradite them. It doesn't happen. It's not that straightforward. People will usually fight it, and as much as we here, there are some who think he's guilty, and there's people who think he's innocent. Over there are people who think he's guilty, and there are people who think and they will go to court and fight it out, and that may take years. And we want some closure. And so I think that it's important that as much as we expect Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta to cooperate, I also will entreat our Special Prosecutor's Office to do whatever they can to meet him halfway, if possible, to make sure that if he needs to get here, he gets here so that we can get the business of doing justice over with.
Thank you, Doc, for that clarity as well, talking about a challenge to extradition. For example, could Ken Ofori-Atta maybe argue a human rights violation, maybe persecution, a political persecution?
All the above. I mean, you go to court and you throw it in and you make a good case that the climate is unfavorable, that people are singling you out, that they have people, the government in power is visiting the sense of the past on you. You can go to court and persuade a judge to take a look at the extradition request and perhaps even refuse it. And so it's not that straightforward that you put a person on a wanted list and then it just goes on. Like, it doesn't happen that way.
Right. Thank you also, Doc, for managing our expectations. I think for many people watching, they might have thought that it's a very straightforward process, but of course there's a lot that goes into that. It's not a simple case of moving into said country and then extraditing that individual. Doc,
but again, I'm saying that I'm sure that the OSP's office, they have information, they keep telling us, they have information that we don't have. And I'm sure that they are making the best judgment that they need to make. We just want to get this thing over with, some of us, yeah.
Yeah, most certainly, especially when you look at the Facebook post of Sammy Darko, and he says that he alludes to some sort of international travel between March and May, and he says Ken Ofori-Atta, might have left whatever jurisdiction we're told he's in and gone elsewhere. And if he's been able to do so, why can he not return to the motherland? All right, Doc, thank you for that. Nanaya, let me come to you on this matter. What do you make of the school of thought that Ken Ofori-Atta, former finance minister, invading investigations sets a dangerous precedent for accountability?
Helen, thank you very much, and good morning to yourself and Doug and my colleague. This is very interesting. It's interesting both for accountability and interesting for those persons who are into the practice of law. And it's also interesting to us Ghanaians. And this is very interesting because it paints a whole lot of pictures of how some individuals act when they are on the other side of the river, and how they would act when they've been able to swim. First of all, we would thank God for his health, his life. We thank God that he has been able to have a very successful surgery and he's recovering. I think that has been the prayer of many Ghanaians, that he undergoes a very successful surgery so that he recovers and comes home. Because there are a lot of issues that we have to deal with. And the lawyers and the court will tell you that very far from us. And Yamin Pengu, that is how we say it in Chi. A dead man does not speak. And so nobody in Ghana would wish him ill. No. I'm saying this on the back of some of the commentaries that have come since yesterday. Some people think that people wish him evil. No. Everybody wishes him well.
Everybody wishes him well.
Everybody in Ghana wishes him well.
How do you come by that assertion that everybody is?
Because somebody has to account for our money.
So are the prayers that he gets strong and fit and healthy just for the sake of getting strong and fit and healthy, or getting strong, fit and healthy to come and answer these burning questions?
Both. Let him come. Let him speak to our money. And then let him also have life, because he has a family. So in as much as we are praying that he should be able to get healthy, come back an account to the people of Ghana. It is also our prayer that he gets healthy, comes back home, account to Ghanaians, and stay with his family. I will never pray to lose such a noble individual. No, he's served Ghana. Ghana gave him that honor to serve us. And so he would also, to be in his own interest, to do us the honor by coming to account to us. But Helen, see, Doc made very good points. But at the end of the day, I would still insist that the OSP is playing some technicalities, and as I said last 2 weeks or so, it makes me want to question if the OSP is being honest with Ghanaians, that indeed he wants to deal with this matter.
I hope you're going to break down for us
The OSP
what is giving you that
cannot
opinion.
tell us that he does not know where Ken Ofori-Atta is. He can't tell us that he does not know where Ken Ofori-Atta is. He knows. What's his name? Kusie Jabe. He knows. He knows personally, his office knows. They know where he is.
And now let me slight talk you a little bit.
Hold on a bit.
Because you say he knows. The wife says he's in the States. What is the
He knows where he is.
distinction here?
He's a senior lawyer. For somebody or a lawyer or an investigator to go to an extent of issuing an extradition or effecting that, it means the person has a fair idea of where to find the person. You cannot tell me you are having your key, you've lost your key in your house, and you do not have a fair idea where the key is. When you came back from work last night, where was the first point of contact? Where have you been putting it? If they are able to tell us that he asked permission, for lack of a better expression, to travel, then there should have been a reason for the travel. And he would have left certain traces to his whereabouts. If the OSP wants to bring him home, he does not need a press conference. He would bring him home. Helen, sometimes people occupy offices and try to play technicalities with issues. This is a straightforward matter. We need a medical report. What is a medical report? It contains the details of a person's health, the diagnosis, the treatments, the medications, the various laboratory tests that the person has gone through. In fact, the details ones contain even the discharge plan, how the person will be discharged, and the recovery progress of the person. So, you ask for a medical report, they bring you, they circulate, they don't bring you, they circulate a letter that is supposedly to have been issued by his medical doctor, which is not a medical report. You push for another one, you put him on red alert. Then this time is the wife that signs a letter. The wife is in the health sector. I'm told. I'm told she was with Kwalibu. I don't know if she's still with them. And I know she knows better that she has no locus to issue such a letter to the OSP.
She says she's not speaking to the OSP. She says that letter is for the general public's information. She made that clear.
What do we need? Are you looking for Ken Ofori-Atta?
She said, thank you for the prayers. You said that people are praying for him.
Yeah, we agree, but are you
She
looking
said,
for
thank
Ken
you for the
Ofori-Atta?
prayers.
She could have left it there. But to tell us the details of how long the surgery went and how long it's going to take for him to recover and all of that, we do not need that. It is the OSP who is requesting for a medical report. You understand me? This back and forth thing is not going to help our quest for accountability of office holders. No. We don't play with letters around and with. How long would it take for whichever health facility he is in to issue a detailed medical report to the OSP? Ghanaians are asking one question: when is he coming home to us? The first letter that came, I think they gave us a date in March.
That's right.
So you see why we rather need a detailed medical report? Those persons who signed the letter, what is their more friends say? Their competence.
Right.
In terms of his healthcare, are they those who have diagnosed him of whatever that is wrong with him? Are they those who are treating him? The family, yes. But you do not have the technical competence. I do not think that when a court is asked or requested for evaluation report, you would ask me, who is into strategic management, to issue evaluation report to the court. And they issue a letter, and the OSP would waste the whole time.
Talk about the press
Executive's
conference.
time to address the letter.
What do you have against the press conferences held by the OSP? He's informing the people of Ghana about where he is in this case.
It is the same thing. Or by Becca and I've even been able to get him. No, it's the same repeat. See, compare his briefings to that of the Attorney General. When the Attorney General has held a press brief, there is always a progress report. Helen, as a journalist, I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
You can do so.
Do you see any progress report being delivered by the OSP from the time he started giving us briefings on Ken Ofori-Atta?
But Anayo, I read out the timeline for you of how the case has traveled.
Timelines.
And at every turn that the OSP has addressed us, he has informed us of what he has
What
done.
did he do the first one?
Let me pull that
The
up.
first one, he said he's put him on red alert. Then he came back to tell us that he has.
So that was in
withdrawn.
February, right? So in
Then,
February,
what
he puts
happened
him,
again?
he declares him wanted, a fugitive from justice.
Yes.
Then the family weighed into the conversation, and then that's the OSP. OSP takes a step back, takes him off that wanted list because the family gave assurances that we would see Ken Ofori-Atta, or at least he was going to undergo treatment in March, and then
And they
after
give
that,
us a date.
there was a date,
Then what
right?
happened?
Then came June 2nd. June 2nd came, and there was no Ken Ofori-Atta
And then what did
because we
OSP
were
say?
told that he has to undergo
Then
medical
OSP went
treatment.
back to
Then he put
red
him
alert.
back on the wanted list. Then he's on the Interpol
And then what
red notice. I want to find out from you, Nanaya, at which point do you say the OSP
When we were in primary
has
school, there was
misstepped?
something we call a assessment form. You know, we had this yellow card. When you write the exams, they will give you. How would you have scored the OSP?
How do you score the OSP? What's your mark?
He's doing nothing about this.
Out of
case.
100, what do
It's
you
just
score the
technicalities. And see, I'm happy we have a senior lawyer here. See, they play around these technicalities to delay us. They play with these technicalities to drag. So he's talking about a simple land matter that has been in court since 2021. You understand? Personally, I think that if the OSP wants to bring Ken Ofori-Atta home, he would bring him home. That we've not gotten to a point where we have to try Ken Ofori-Atta. We are at the investigative stage.
That's right.
What we need is that we need information. It gives the OSP the opportunity to gather data and gather information, whichever way you want to put it. All right. If bringing him is becoming difficult, all right, and he says that, okay, you want information because they're at the investigative stage, let us talk on Zoom. virtual. Give him the benefit of the doubt then.
There's an explanation to that the OSP gives, that they cannot carry out certain processes via Zoom. If they want to caution Kenneth Ofori-Atta, they cannot do so via Zoom.
If Ken
Lawyer, am I
after
right?
3 months, if Ken after 3 months, if Ken after 3 months, the family comes back to issue another letter that he's recovering progressively, and for that matter, he needs another 3 months for us to be able to monitor his system, whatever. He will speak a lot of English, of course. And so we would wait again for another 3 months.
That's why extradition processes are happening concurrently. No,
but did you hear what the lawyer said?
That's what I'm saying.
And that is the truth of the matter. That is why I'm saying. That is why I'm saying that the OSP is just helping Ken Ofori-Atta to do what he's doing to Ghanaians.
Why is the OSP doing that?
Because if you issue an extradition or you trigger the process, the police does not just go to the hospital to bring him. No. The person will take it to court. The state where he is. And he gave you an example. It can even go on for a year or two. And you see, and I'm happy he mentioned it and he cited a case to that effect. It can go on for so many years. Because there should be enough grounds why the person should be extradited. Am I right?
Ellen, let me make one point.
Certainly.
I think that we should also understand that investigations, you want to bring him, we should note that the information that perhaps the OSP wants from Ken Ofori-Atta, there might be information that does not necessarily have to do with him. They are investigating several matters. I think there are 5 of them.
5 or so.
You know, and it involves other people.
Right.
So you need him for investigation. It's not simply just to charge him. You know, we are at the investigative stage, and you know, so the focus is on him, but they need him as part of a broader data gathering. Let me put it that way. So we should note that too.
The OSP, and I insist, the OSP is helping Ken Ofori-Atta not to account to Ghanaians.
Gentlemen, let me put this out there and then tell me what you think.
I'm not too sure about that, but
I want to
that is how
tell
I
us
feel.
why. I mean, if you have a reason why we shouldn't begrudge you of that opinion.
Are you listening to him?
Now, gentlemen, bear with me, and then I'll bear with me very quickly, please, about this idea of speaking to him via Zoom. Listening to the OSP, and it's not just the special prosecutor, listening to Sammy Darko of the OSP, what I glean from what they're saying is that it is not up to Mr. Ofori-Atta to dictate the manner in which they elicit that information, so that simply by him saying, let's do Zoom, they don't want to do Zoom. They say they know why they want to see him in person. So for those who say waiting to see him in person is stalling the investigations, OSP says there's a reason why. There are certain processes that they cannot do.
What is the reason? If you've been able to hold a press conference for an hour or two and crack jokes for us to laugh, you cannot tell us the reason why you want him in person. Listen, and lawyer, please correct me if I'm wrong. If they start this virtual thing that he's also proposing, of course, I'm not for it though, but where we are forced to accept it. And they have been able to gather in, or they have enough grounds to cause his arrest. Now, would it be wrong for them to state on record that by A, B, C, D, you are under arrest? And then they go to court here to issue a warrant to help the process of extraditing him into Ghana.
No, I don't think the processes for arresting a person, lend themselves to a possibility of online arrest. I don't think so.
But I'm saying that. I'm saying that.
Right.
Without, being so technical.
Right.
Okay. The person is not in the country. There's this lady who has been convicted. What is her name?
Referred to Sedinam. Maslock.
No, but you see that.
Hold on a second.
Okay.
Sedinam went through the processes. She left the country. The case continued in court. There was a ruling. There was a judgment. Convictions taken, but she's not in the country. Okay. I think they are supposed to start a process to actually look for her. All right. Now that is one. She's gone. But the point is that she has been convicted. Now this issue with Ken, the investigations have not even, I don't think they've even started investigating with him, not with the others who are involved. That is number one. Number two, he has not been charged. So there cannot be a trial in absentia.
Precisely.
All right?
Yes.
Yes.
You need to conclude the investigations to be able to charge him.
Right.
And then you start the process. And so if for 15 years he decides to play with us on the issues of health, which I know or pray he doesn't, we would be waiting to get him here into this country before we gather whatever information we have to gather. Is that what we are saying?
Is that what the OSP is saying? So the OSP has initiated, and I want us to put the issues into proper perspective so that all our viewers can follow along. What if it's the case? The OSP says they're embarking on extradition procedures in tandem with the AG. I'm sure if they hit a snag, they might decide to go in another direction. But as it's still early days and that process is still ongoing, we don't know if...
Should we wait for them to hit?
What is the alternative, Danayao?
The alternatives are the suggestions we, the roadside people, are saying. You waited and sat for the man to lead the narrative.
Right, and in just 30 seconds, I'll come to Julius.
You sat and watched the man lead the narrative. You understand me? You sat. Who didn't know that the issues of the ambulance and the National Cathedral were going to go under investigations? Who didn't know this in this country? And the whole system, the OSP's office, sat aloof, watched the man travel.
That much I agree with
You sat aloof and watched him leave the country. And then you come to tell us these Kokwanansi stories.
Danayao, thank you for that.
Let's be
I'll
real.
certainly come back to you for your final bite on this. Julius, can we begrudge Nanayao's the opinion that there's something in the water, as he says? He says that, well, it should be easier than that. It should be more straightforward than that.
Well, before I touch on that, I must say that I wish Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta well in all these issues about his health, if they are indeed true that he is dealing with such complications. I do not think that there is anyone among the people of Ghana who would want anything to go wrong with Ken Ofori-Atta. Those of us who are interested in accountability and making sure that he renders account to the people of Ghana for his role as an agent of the state in the office of finance minister, we are even more interested in him being alive and well. Because God forbid that anything happens to Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta and we don't get answers on SML, we don't get answers on ambulance spare parts, and all of those issues which have direct consequences for the people of Ghana. When a finance minister supervises looting of the public, supervises actions that cause financial loss to the state, the consequences are that lives are lost. When you can have, twice the number of ambulances that are procured for, contracts that the finance minister signed onto, the implication is that the lack of those other ones have implications for public health and safety of the Ghanaian people. All those things border on the well-being of our citizens, and we all want accountability for. So God forbid that anything happens to Ken Ofori-Atta. He must be alive and he must account for whatever is going on. So I wish him very well in all of this, that he should go through the processes. Now, on the issue of the special prosecutor as to whether or not there are any doubts to his commitment, I only agree with my senior brother on the points he made, that there was a clear opportunity to prevent Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta from leaving this country in the first place. In fact, while I empathize with him, the conditions that they are suggesting Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta is going through can be treated here in Ghana. There is no, first-class citizenship or second-class citizenship in this country. if you and me are to be suspected of committing offenses in this country, we will not be allowed to even go and sit in Togo and be telling the special prosecutor that we are sick.
He sought permission, though, Julius.
We would permission from whom?
We're told that he told this current chief of staff, as well as the previous chief of staff, that he was leaving the shores of Ghana to seek some medical treatment.
No, Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta was leaving this country at a time where the OSP, that you must set a clear distinction between the role of the chief of staff, both under President Kufuor's administration and then under President Mohammed's administration. Their role is not investigation of criminals.
So it's immaterial, you say?
Yes, it's immaterial. Their role is not investigation of criminals. It is the OSP who has prosecutorial authority, who have investigative agencies that aid the role that he plays. So it is him who is supposed to know the nature and character of the issues he's investigating and the level of interest he has in particular persons. So we can't just simply say that because Ken Ofori-Atta wrote to Chief of Staff, but the OSP should be excused for letting him out of the jurisdiction when he knows very well that he's investigating issues that that requires him to actually get caution statements and all of that from Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta. So on that match, I agree with my brother that he shouldn't have allowed that to happen in the first place for us to get here. But you see, one point must be made fundamentally clear. Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta, his associates, his family, and everybody, despite the fact that we all empathize with them, that he's in a bad health condition, if it is true, and not just a ruse to evade investigation and all of that. Despite the fact that we empathize with them, they must understand that the sort of privilege, that he enjoyed under President Kufuor, to the extent that let's recount instances that involve Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta in this country. First, Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta was supposed to be appointed finance minister at a time where he was not within this jurisdiction. President Kufuor kept that position vacant. It was then Majority Leader Chairman Sabonsu who was reading budgets to us in this country.
That's right.
It was reserved for Ken Ofori-Atta until he came. Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta said he was ill at some point in this country and insisted that he would keep running the finance ministry, even when there were calls from members of the New Patriotic Party, including the majority in parliament, over 88 MPs if I recall, asking that Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta should resign. He insisted on staying in that role. If you love your agency role as finance minister on behalf of the state so much that you were unwilling to leave it, even in ill health, why is it that the requirements of agency, which include accountability to your principal, the state, come up and now you're outside of the jurisdiction giving all manner of excuses? So please, they should spare us this. There are no privileges whatsoever for particular classes of people in this country. Members of the New Patriotic Party, Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta, recently when the issue was involving Wontumi, you will hear them, they have particular phrases they use which suggest that they have certain privileges in terms of how they must be treated in this country. Please, just invite them. When I commit offenses, the police would come and arrest me with due process of law. That includes them to even enter my house and pick me up. But when it comes to them, they tell you that invite them. Who are they? That they should be invited. When it comes to Ofori-Atta, he goes to sit down. The question you must ask yourself is that how many of our fellow citizens would be able to be doing what Ofori-Atta is doing and get away with it? How many of our fellow citizens will be able to do that?
So, Julius,
how many of our fellow citizens, how many of our fellow citizens would get away with these things that he is doing? Just wake up and say, I am ill today. The wife, the wife. How many of our fellow citizens would have a situation where their spouses would be the ones dictating to law enforcement when and how they would be able to see them?
So, Julius,
No medical report, yes, a minute. No medical report from experts as to the status of Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta, and we are getting a letter from his wife. How many of our fellow citizens would be able to do that? That when they are suspects in situations, their spouses will be dictating to law enforcement under what conditions they will be seen.
So you agree with the OSP when he says that it is not up to Ken Ofori-Atta to dictate and suggest, well, I can't come, let's do it via Zoom.
No, he can't do that.
What sort of precedent would you say that sets for all future investigations? And you make that distinction that you and I cannot be suspected or wanted or being asked to assist in investigations.
Yes, and we'll go and sit in Togo and be saying
and then say, invite us via Zoom and let us provide that.
We can't do that.
Right.
The precedence is certain, is even clear already. If you listen to commentaries of associates of Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta, I would say that what I deduce from all of this is that there is no intention whatsoever to have Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta back in this jurisdiction. Let's stop kidding ourselves. And that is why if the OSP is very interested in getting Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta to this jurisdiction, he must begin extradition processes as soon as possible.
We're told that is underway.
Yes, it must be acted on as soon as possible. The reason I'm saying that there is no intention to have Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta here is that you would listen to associates of Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta, people who themselves said they have worked with him and all of that, tell us live on television that to the extent that they are concerned, and if Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta listens to them, he should never return to this jurisdiction. Then you later see his wife telling us that he will come in 3 months, telling us that he has undergone successful surgeries and all of that. Information which, under proper circumstances, should be emanating from health experts who have treated Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta. So if you listen to his associates, his wife, his friends, and all of that, the intention is not that Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta should return here. And I don't think that anybody should be allowed to continue, carrying out this conduct. There is no such thing as a privilege from investigation in this country. All of us, to the extent that we have our liberties and freedoms as citizens, we are also subject to accountability to the state. And where there's any suspicion of wrongdoing, we must comply with law enforcement. You can't just go and sit in the United States, fly from the UK to US anytime you like, but say you can't fly to Ghana. What does it mean by you can't fly to Ghana?
This?
Oh, please. The OSP says that they are reliably informed that Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta flew from the UK to the United States. Within the same period, he's saying he was unable to fly to Ghana. The OSP is a state institution with, the capacity to carry out investigations. When they put out any information, it is presumed to be true.
Right.
Why is he able to do that, but he's unable to come to Ghana? So clearly there is no intention to come to Ghana and account. And let's be honest with ourselves. The conduct that Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta put up in this country, the consequences that it had for people, whereas we must sympathize with him for being in ill health, he must also understand that his conduct had consequences on people. You remember the Kama group man, that fine old man. You remember his
addressing a crowd.
Yes, you remember.
Right.
His conduct in this country as finance minister had consequences for people, even death for some people. So his situation, whereas we sympathize with him, will not be a convenient excuse for him to escape accountability. Because the reason why law enforcement exists, the reason why people must go through investigations, the reason why, where it is necessary, they must be subjected to the criminal procedure, is that people must have closure for certain wrongdoings that they have suffered. When people in this country were suffering, ambulances were unavailable for them, and he was inflating contracts and all of those things for relatives and all of that. They had consequences for people. Please, when the cost of ambulance is, for example, 100 cedis, and another person goes and buys it for 200 cedis, it is not allegedly that it has been doubled. It is not allegedly. It is very viable fact.
Thank you, Julius.
It is not allegedly. When you do all these things and you have consequences for people, these people also deserve empathy. And so this expectation that particular classes of people are supposed to be given special treatment when they choose when to appear before investigative agencies, and the rest of us, anytime we are suspected of wrongdoing, the investigation agencies can just show up anytime at all and pick us up. Should not continue in this country, and nobody should allow Ofori-Atta to continue doing this. So I agree with my brother to the extent that he says that Ofori-Atta should not be allowed to move out of the jurisdiction in the first place. It should not have been allowed.
Julius, thank you so much for that. I'll let you have a final bite. And Doc, bear with me just very quickly, because I do actually have some questions that I hope will give us some clarity, and then we can wrap up on this conversation. I do see your comments as well. Do keep them coming on our socials. This one from Richard Darko says, is it because we don't have robotic systems here? They want to confuse us with a diagnostic procedure, but I'm sure this can be fixed here. Let me put or bring into the conversation Dr. Evans Akpakli, consultant urologist, Kolebu Teaching Hospital. And let's get a different perspective on this conversation. Doc, hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing this morning?
I'm also doing very well.
Thank you for joining us on the program. I know a number of us have some burning questions, and we're seeking to put some flesh on the bones as far as this Ken Ofori-Atta saga is concerned, but also in a broader perspective about the treatment that he underwent. I'll take my time in pronouncing this word. It's a tricky one. Prostatectomy. Doc, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Prostatectomy. What is
Prostatectomy.
Prostatectomy. All right, you need plenty of water to say that word. We have viewers asking, this procedure, can it be done on our shores?
Currently, we don't do robotic assisted radical prostatectomy in Ghana.
Right.
But we do open radical prostatectomy in the country.
Okay. What is the difference?
So the difference is basically the robotic assisted radical prostatectomy is a minimally invasive procedure, just like laparoscopy or urology, whereby you don't give the patient a big cut. The person has smaller cuts. Then you use a camera with instruments so as to perform the surgery. Whereas the open surgery, you have a bigger cut, but the surgical procedure is the same.
Okay, so the robotic prostatectomy, that is more sophisticated, minimally invasive, as opposed to what we do on our shores, which is a bit more invasive, you say. When we talk about recovery times, what amount of time would you put to recovery? I know every patient is different and complications might lengthen that time, but generally speaking, would you say 3 months is a good enough time? Is it too long, too short? Educate us, please.
So for the two procedures, the robotic assisted and open, the main difference is recovery time. Because robotic assisted is minimally invasive, usually without complication, the patient spends less time in hospital. Oftentimes, 2 days, 3 days, the patient is discharged from hospital with a catheter. Whereas the open, you stay on the ward a minimum of 7 days before you be discharged. The catheter will usually be removed after 3 weeks. And once the catheter is removed, you will be discharged to continue with follow-ups, which can either be in the form of months, like the initial follow-up is a month, then subsequently it will be 3 monthly for a year.
Right.
So there are patients who travel outside who prefer the robotic assisted radical prostatectomy, who travel outside, and within a month they are back into the country to continue with their treatment.
All right. I was going to ask then about flight risk. You say within a month, an individual who has undergone this type of procedure could take a flight, could travel, let's say, to and from between the United States and Ghana.
That is perfect. Within a month, the patient should be able to travel. Even with the open prostatectomy, within a month, you can travel by air.
Certainly, Doc. Thank you so much for that perspective and for that much needed education. We wanted to pick your thoughts on this particular...
So, okay, let me just...
Yes.
The only difference between the open, apart from the early recovery time and being discharged early from hospital, the other advantage is there is minimal bleeding when it comes to when you use the robotic assisted compared to open. But in terms of disease control and complications that are associated with the radical prostatectomy, there is absolutely no difference between the two surgical procedures. Okay, so It is only shorter time of stay in hospital and bleeding during surgery, which will minimize the transfusion rate as it occurs in robotic radical prostatectomy compared to open radical prostatectomy. So basically, the treatment is the same. There is no superiority in terms of disease control or complication, be it urinary incontinence or erectile dysfunction. There is no advantage between the two surgical procedures.
Doc, thank you so much for that, and thank you for your time this morning. Dr. Evans Akpakli is a consultant urologist at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. I know a number of you had some questions about the, shall I say, health side of things, and we sought to put some clarity to this. He makes a distinction between the two different types of procedures and the recovery time. But at most, he says, within a month, a patient could potentially travel without too much complication. So we put that side by side.
Those who don't understand English will say that it means the one Ken went through is much more simpler.
That's right.
And he should be able to recover faster.
In fact, he said 2 days even. it can start.
You see, it
Recovery
comes
can
back
start.
to what we're saying.
Helen,
Yes, Doc.
for the sake of public education,
Yes.
and I think there are some of us who are prostate cancer ambassadors. I have had radical prostatectomy, they call it.
I was told to drink water before I say this word again.
Word.
It's a big one.
Professor Mensah at the Department of Urology is my doctor. I'm his patient. I had, this procedure that Ken, the former minister, had. I had it outside the country. I was back in the country within 3 weeks, 2-3 weeks.
And how are you feeling?
I had it in 2019, and I'm here, by His grace. So let us not, people are scared enough about cancer.
That's right.
And, to the extent that some of us don't go for treatment because we don't even want to think about it. So, no, it is my hope that this is not feeding into that fear and that anxiety. Not many of us are privileged to have this kind of treatment that he's getting, By His grace, some of us lucky to, I've been through the same process. I think 3 months, I think Mrs. Ofori-Atta should be reminded that in this country, there are spouses, wives who had their spouses try to arrest them in church. I think we need to be reminded that
Somebody was undergoing kidney.
That we're not, there are no special Ghanaians. We are all Ghanaians.
It's important.
Do you infer from
that
that? Because Julius also made that point that it seems as though when we talk about Ken Ofori-Atta, that we're being very mindful.
Yes, but I'm just making the point that prostate cancer is not different on Ken Ofori-Atta as it is with other individuals. In the same way, being a suspect and being wanted for investigation, there's no difference between citizen A and citizen B. And with all deference to Professor Mrs. Ofori-Atta, we should take note of that. I want to believe that the special prosecutor knows what he's doing. And, all that some of us are saying is, please don't let it take too long. Find a way to bring this to some closure so that we can hold this man accountable.
Doc, I have a question then. Do you, shall I say, see where Nanaya was coming from? And he is not too trusting of the activities of the OSP. I hope I've phrased that correctly, but that's what I'm inferring from him. I don't know if it's because it's the layman's opinion that these processes should be more straightforward, but you put the picture a bit clearer for us that it's not as simple as it seems, because I'm monitoring the comments. I'll read a few of them out that also seem to follow what Nanaya was saying, that because it's taking so much time, there is some perception there that there is some, shall I say, I want to word this carefully.
There's an established perception that most Ghanaians have. We all do.
Well, I think that...
You understand?
I think we should.
See, please. Let's not be hypocritical on these matters. You understand? You pose a question.
Yeah.
If it were you, do you think that the OSP, the Office of the Special Prosecutor, would have treated you this way?
No, I don't think so.
So why are we being hypocritical?
I don't think so. But my concern is with the fact that he shouldn't have been let out of the jurisdiction in the first place, because I don't think that
so let's take it from there. So number one, they were in the known. The Office of the Special Prosecutor cannot tell Ghanaians that they were not in the known that Ken Ofori-Atta was leaving the jurisdiction.
Of course, I don't think
that is number one.
Yes.
So they allowed him to go.
Yes.
Number two, Do we need two presses, all right, to be able to get to the point that, listen, Ken can come to this country and have that same process here in this country?
But the OSP cannot compel him on his
Nobody
choice
is
of
compelling
hospital.
him.
That is something we need to understand.
But we allowed him to lead the narrative.
You say Ken Ofori-Atta is leading the narrative.
Yes, he and his lawyers are leading the narrative.
Doc.
You know, I'm an old man, and sometimes, you know, and they are youthful friends, you know. I want to give the OSP the benefit of the doubt at all times, you know, and I want to believe that he is acting in the best interests of Ghanaians. However, my little wisdom guides me to entreat him to recognize that we want closure.
Yes.
We want accountability, and we should do so knowing fully well there are no superior Ghanaians, that we are all Ghanaians, we are all you know, covered by
The 1992.
this constitution. And you know, and then what is good for one Ghanaian
Is good
is
for the
good
other.
for the other. And I
Absolutely.
think he should be mindful so that he does not lend himself to these
What's perception out there on the street? Everybody is thinking that way.
You know, and I've seen colleagues, you know, being very vocal about, you know, people who understand the system of extradition and those things, asking him to be cautious about how he goes about it. And I think that's all we can do. For me, I believe that he wants to act in the best interest of the country, of the people of Ghana, and I hope he will do so. But Mrs. Ofori-Atta should understand that her husband is no special person. We pray for him. We want him to recover. I've been through it myself. I know it can scare you to death. You know, it's not an easy thing to go through, and I don't wish that on anyone.
Certainly.
But what is good for one Ghanaian is good for another. And if he has to come to answer questions, he should come. It is not for the wife to give us medical reports.
Certainly. And then please, just in 30 seconds for me.
You
please.
see, if you listen to the medical expert that you spoke to very well, and we would want to accept the letter that Mrs. Professor Ken Ofori-Atta has issued, and we would want to go by the excuses being given by the Office of the Special Prosecutor, there could be 1,001 reviews after the 3 months. If you had listened to him very well, because after some 3 weeks, he says that they would go for, you know, the medical reviews and to whatever explanations he was given. So at the end of every 3 months, we would be expecting a progress letter from the family to tell us that we should give them another 3 months. And so because they are going...
And in fact, she did say that. She said she did. There was a caveat.
There was a caveat.
She said
If you
in
read
3
the letter
months,
very well.
if everything goes according to plan. So she didn't actually say that he will be back. She says if it all goes to plan. And I'll thank you so much for those thoughts. I think we can park it here for the conversation on Ken Ofori-Atta. I'm sure in due course we'll be hearing some more. Nanaya is firm in his opinion, but time only can tell us what will happen. Let me read a few of your comments and then we'll go on to our next matter very briefly, and I'll get a bite from each of my panelists on this particular issue. Do keep your thoughts and comments coming across our socials on X, on Facebook, even on YouTube. I see many of you lending your voice to the conversation. Okay. Ebuka John says, the time Ghanaians were begging Ken Ofori-Atta to stop being selfish, and even when some NPP members urged President Akufo-Addo to sack Ken Ofori-Atta, he refused. Now his family are writing a love letter to the public. That's how you're describing that letter coming from the wife of Ken Ofori-Atta. Elsie Senna says, we're not in normal times. Your real COVID has come. All right, you're addressing the NPP. The rest of that comment is duly redacted. Dr. JD says, Ken Ofori-Atta is not coming back. We should move on. All right.
Somebody just sent me a similar thing.
All right, you've got a message and
Just
then
like that, just as you have read.
Similar to that, a lot of
somebody
comments
says that
also.
listening to the medical doctor and reading the letter from the family again, let's forget it. Ken isn't coming back.
I have said it that if you listen to his close associates, Kofi Bento, the last time, and the letter from the wife.
You were listening to him on Newsfire.
Yes, I don't think that he intends to come back. And so, to the extent of these matters, I agree with my brother that the special prosecutor must take further steps to ensure that Ken Ofori-Atta is brought back here to the jurisdiction.
I said it bluntly.
So not that
Lawyer
I doubt
has
his
been
work.
able to put it well.
Not that I doubt his work, but I'm saying that from the indications we are getting, the reasonable conclusion anybody who has been following this matter will draw is that Ken Ofori-Atta does not intend to come to this jurisdiction. If medical experts are saying that the process within 7 days, you should be stable. At most, a month, you should be stable. Then we have your lady wife telling us that you need 3 months. She's not a medical doctor
And
in
even
the
that
first
has
place.
a caveat.
She's not a medical
Right.
doctor in the first place. If she were, she was not the one who is treating you. So she has no locus to
Julius,
tell
thank
us
you for
that.
that.
Then secondly, she's giving us a timeline that does not correspond in any way with what the experts are saying. And she's saying that even after the 3 months, what is happening here?
Julius,
If
thank
you
you for
should be suspected of committing any offense in this country, I don't think your spouse would have that privilege to be telling Ghanaians that. And so with all respect and with all deference to her, and with all the compassion that comes with Ghanaianness, we appreciate your situation, but please,
Thank
you
you,
don't
Julius.
have locals to be telling us these things.
Thank you, Julius. Thank you for that. And thank you, gentlemen, for weighing in on this particular one. I was attempting to read your comments on Facebook. I'm not too sure what is going on, but do keep them coming on our other socials. I'm trying to access our Facebook page. Apologies for that. We'll move on to our next topic very, very briefly. We're short of time, but I will get a quick bite from each one of my panelists. We're talking about CLOGSAG, the Civil and Local Government Staff Association. Now, they've directed all staff of the births and deaths registry nationwide to stay at home starting Tuesday, June 17, 2025. In fact, that's today, citing an increasingly hostile work environment under the acting registrar, Mr. Samuel Adum Butche. Julius, I think I can put this to you, and you can clarify for us. We only have about a minute or so. What do you know so far? Because June 17, today is D-Day, that the strike is happening. We're told that there's some not conducive work environment at the moment.
Well, I must say that in all issues concerning labor and the people who work to serve this republic, it is the intention of President Mahama and his government that people should be able to work within the best of conditions and the best of compensations be given them as much as possible, and that the best of leadership also is provided for them at the helm of all institutions. President Mahama has been guided by these backdrops in his appointment of persons to hold various positions. I do not think that anybody would deliberately want to create hostile working environments for their subordinates in any institution whatsoever. And in any case, if there is any concern with the conduct of a particular official, I think that the right course of action is to draw the attention of the relevant authority, the appointing authority, to those conducts. In some circumstances where need be, to petition SRAJ and all of that. I don't think that a strike action is the immediate course of action when there is suspicion of wrongdoing on the part of any public officer. And so whereas I cannot claim to know within specifics what exactly these issues are, I do not think that the immediate course of action should have been a strike action. Also, we must not obfuscate matters. Concerns about the nature and character of a person who has been appointed to a particular office should not be bundled up with issues about conditions of service and all of that.
Right.
And then strike actions are undertaken on them. When you have concerns about the nature and character of a person who has been appointed, because over the period we have heard clerks have suggested that they do not think that the person is qualified in all manner of issues. I think that those arguments are not grounded in law. The qualifications for persons who are supposed to be appointed is clear in their enabling act. I do not see any part of it which contradicts the person who has been appointed over there. They are not grounded in law. But I don't think that those issues should be bundled up with issues concerning their conditions of service and strike actions undertaken. Please, let's address one issue at a time,
right,
so that we are able to identify which claims are legitimate, which claims are not, where we can reach a consensus, where we can reach agreements, and then we actually solve issues and keep the public working. We cannot say that because we don't like people, the rest of the public, which needs the services of these institutions, should be left out. Public service and all of these issues are mostly about balancing rights, balancing interests, balancing stakes in the matters that are involved. Whereas you are interested in, demands for who you want to be, or, head your institutions, or the kind of conditions of service you want to have and all of that, you must also be minded about the other interests that are there, the rights of other people to use the services you provide and all of those things. When we weigh them, do your demands outweigh those interests that are at play? I don't think that, mere dislike for a person who has been appointed to a particular office provides sufficient basis for you to deny the rest of the public that. So please, I am making an appeal to them on behalf of government that we should consider these issues carefully. We should separate the issues and deal with them one by one and know which one is the main cause of concern, where we are reaching middle grounds on particular issues, so that we can serve the public very well. That is our calling.
Julius, thank you so much for that. It's a hot live issue, and of course we'll be following along. And then I'll just 1 minute take on this, and then I'll also go to Doc. It's an unfolding issue as it stands now. Your quick bite.
It's an interesting event, and I think that this has been going on for so many years. And this is where some of us who would say it as it is would tell CLOSAC that their leadership is not doing good. They are not doing well with this matter. Now, we have to be very blunt. This has been going on for so many years. Anytime they have appointed a registrar, okay, they make this noise and they go back to cert. What are you looking out for? The story has always been the same. Appoint somebody from within us.
Right.
Has that not been the case?
You're right.
Now, there is an act that establishes the birth and death registry.
Yeah.
That is a registration of birth and death Act 2020.
Yeah.
Okay, Act 1027.
Right.
I think Section 2.
If you read from Section 2,
yeah,
it talks about the appointment. And the Section 2.2 is very clear and very blunt. There is no ambiguity. It is a precedent that appoints in accordance to the civil service procedure. All right. So, do you now determine who the president should appoint? I do not think that you would have that right.
Right.
I do not think you have that privilege. You can only appeal to the president that this is what we seek to do. And then, you see, just the end, I think in 2022 or so, they went to court on the same matter when Hetty Madam Hetty was appointed. They went to court to push the president to take out Hetty and then appoint one of their deputies in her stead. But what did we hear of it? There was no judicial pronouncement. They went back to discontinue the case. Then you have come back today seeking that same thing. What they should be doing rather is either they go to Supreme Court to seek for the interpretation of that procedure, that section.
Right.
Or they push the local government ministry, all right, for an amendment of the act. Then they can put in what they want to be done. But putting your tools down and walking on the street does not solve the matter.
Absolutely.
Because there is a clear legal procedure that has been followed. And so I think that the leadership of CLOSAC should put themselves together and do the right thing.
Thank you for that, Nanayao. And Doc, finally from you as well, your thoughts, your quick bites.
My colleagues have actually, the law is the law.
The law is the law. Doc, you are a dream guest. Succinct always.
The birth and death registry is a creature of law. The leadership of CLOSAC should look at the law and ask themselves whether what they're doing is lawful. It's not.
Absolutely.
And they should take care of it. And just one thing.
Yes.
A pet peeve of mine. It's about time we folded birth and death registry into NIA.
All right. NIA should absorb.
Yes. So that identity from birth to death is handled by NIA. I think that the leadership of CLOSAC should avert their minds to forward-looking, futuristic
rather than striking
that are good for this country, rather than this
strike every day.
Thank you so much.
Very progressive.
Thank you so much for that, Doc. And I was jealous when I said Doc is succinct, a dream guest, as always. No shade to you. There's no shade here at all. Let me say a very big thank you to my panelists this morning. Julius Kwame Anthony is part of the presidency's communication team. Also, Dr. Josiah Koba, former principal lecturer at GIMPA, also private legal practitioner. And I also had Nanayao Sapon, political aid to Alan Singh. He didn't bring his yellow Bible, but next week I'm sure he will. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for making this discussion fruitful indeed. We're cashing out this morning. Don't forget to play *439# and don't go too far. We will be right back.
Every day, people have money emergencies. Ma, I need my school fees emergency. Mommy, chop money emergency. Emergency. Catch it. I'm in rent emergency. Now, there's a new emergency number in town. Pepper powder,